Welcome to Roots in Lowell, the Mill City Grows podcast. This is episode 11. In this episode, I speak with Nate Robertson and Mariah Notini, who are working in Taste the Acre, which is a local program that is kind of comes from the Mass Development TDI, which is a transformative development initiative. Basically, it's their signature economic development program for gateway cities like Lowell and their downtowns and their commercial districts. You may have seen them tabling at some of our events or some events right here around Lowell, giving you samples of all the restaurants that are located in the Acre area of Lowell. But yeah, like one of the things that we talk about is like, what is the vision of the project, the actual work that they do when actually they're not tabling or any of this, and what are the goals of the project. And we discuss how they will describe the success of the program. One of the things I'm going to say, I had a lot of fun doing this episode. I think you can hear it when you listen to the interview in full. And one of the things I do want to say is that I hope you enjoy. So first, I was going to say thank you for doing this. And what are your names? You want to introduce yourselves and what organization you're representing?
Sure. So I'm happy to jump in. My name is Nate Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
I work for Mass Development, which is the state's economic development and finance agency and the state's land bank.
Ooh,
So
wow.
we own a lot of land throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're a quasi-public agency.
Mm-hmm.
You can think of it as like the state's bank. It's
Okay,
what the state,
but for land?
but for land, but we do lending, we do financing, we work with a lot of cities and towns and nonprofits and manufacturing. Anything that involves sort of banking-esque services, we work alongside with banks to provide those, but for public benefit.
Ooh, that's so cool. I did not know that part.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, Nate. My name's Mariah Notini, and I'm actually a line cook at Pammy's Restaurant in Cambridge, and I sort of operate as an adjunct fellow
Yeah.
with Nate working on Taste the Acre through Mass Development.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my very first question, and thank you for your introductions, is like, really, I wanted to talk about Taste the Acre, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like, what is Taste the Acre, right? What was the concept behind like the creation of it, and why the acre?
Sure. So I'm happy to jump into that. So I work for this program within Mass Development called the Transformative Development Initiative.
Okay.
And you can think, Mass Development's a big organization. They do a lot of economic development work throughout the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I work for a small program that's really focused on commercial revitalization in neighborhoods
Okay.
across the state and in gateway cities. And so what gateway cities are defined as is, you can think of them as sort of those secondary post-industrial cities.
Mhm.
A lot of these cities like Lowell,
Yeah, Lowell.
Lawrence, Haverhill,
Haverhill.
Worcester, Holyoke, Springfield, Hyannis, Taunton, New Bedford, Fall River, all these sort of like cities that I feel like have struggled to find their footing since manufacturing left town.
Yeah.
And we have all these cities like this in Massachusetts.
A lot.
Yeah. So from Mass Development's perspective, there's a real focus on like, how do we better serve these communities? How do we become an impactful player in these cities? Because we believe that these cities are like key to the continued economic success of Massachusetts.
Okay.
If we can make neighborhoods in these communities really awesome, desirable, cool, growing, and working, then the whole state benefits. So our efforts were really focused on here in the Acre, on the Acre neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so Lowell applied to get this TDI designation, Transformative Development Initiative, about 2 years ago, and it's a 3-year program.
So it's a 3-year program.
Yeah, and it extends from, you can think of it as like, you know where Mochi Nut is, right on Dutton Street?
Yeah.
You can think of it as from Mochi Nut all the way down to the University Crossing building.
Okay.
And so
that street.
Yeah, it's like a little corridor.
Okay.
And there's a lot of great food businesses in there. I think there's 16. So it's
16.
Yeah,
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So immediately a lot of the work we were focused on was, I mean, this is not an unsuccessful commercial neighborhood. This is already a pretty successful commercial neighborhood. There are some great restaurants. There's a lot of great food. There's a lot of great entrepreneurs who are already in this area, and like they've got great restaurants. They've got great businesses. How do we better serve those, and how do we continue to make those successful? So increasingly over the past couple of years, our focus has been on food.
Yes.
And that's where we came up with this Taste the Acre initiative. And it was really aimed at branding the whole neighborhood as a food destination. It already is, if you
It
like.
already is, yeah. I mean, if you as a Lowellian, yes. Yeah, that's kind of where you come to eat food, like that stretch of Lowell.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And then a piece of that was like, all right, how do we, if we want to market it, like what's a good way to do it? And we came up with this idea for food markets, and that's where Mariah has been super helpful in terms of setting up these food markets. I mean, you've got a background in running food markets, so you were like the perfect fit. And we started partnering with organizations like UMass Lowell, Middlesex. Well, I don't want to talk too much.
Yeah. Keep going.
But we had, I think our first pilot was with UMass Lowell, and that's where you jumped in to really help us execute on what makes a good food market and how to make these food markets work. So,
but did UMass Lowell come to you? You went to UMass Lowell with the idea?
The TDI, we call it a partnership program because we all sit around the table. It's me, it's UMass Lowell, it's the city, it's Coalition for a Better Acre, Lowell Housing Authority. Who am I missing? Jean d'Arc Credit Union, the Entrepreneurship Center, the Lowell Plan. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. So if anybody's out there that is listening to this that I'm missing, please forgive me.
Yeah.
But but we all sit around the table and we talk about how do we, all these organizations are vested in the neighborhood.
Very invested, yeah.
Yeah, like what do we do to like continue helping out? And this was one of those ideas that came from that.
Yeah. Yeah, and UMass Lowell already was doing a farmer's market with Mill City Grows that they wanted to sort of expand on and pull in some of the existing food businesses in the neighborhood that the market was running in. So I think that's why the partnership felt so natural, and having our first events at UMass Lowell made a lot of sense, and it just felt really organic and easy.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And from UMass Lowell's perspective, they were like, I mean, they recognize the value of the Acre neighborhood. All of the folks that work there eat at these restaurants. I mean, go around.
I go there all the time.
Right.
That's like a couple blocks from here.
Absolutely. You go there during lunchtime, and it's people who are working at Mill City Grows and UMass Lowell, and it's we all know about it. So it was like, all right, how do we expand that customer base for these businesses? And from the university's perspective, they were like, great, let's make it students, faculty, and staff more aware of it. And we're already doing this farmers markets. Like, how do we build on that? And then we came up with this Taste the Acre market, which is essentially we bring a bunch of food from participating restaurants in the neighborhood, and we give it out to people, students, mostly students, and we talk about the neighborhood and show how close everything is, and it's really just a hype program for the Acre.
That is awesome, though. That is very awesome. And I do have a question that is kind of like you were mentioning, and it's something that I kind of wanted to ask as of like maybe in the time that you've been, this is a 3-year program, right? And you said like, like there's like 16 restaurants we were saying or something like that. And I know there's not just restaurant. There's other I know there's like a little market over there. The one like I think is a fish market or something like that.
Ocean Garden Market?
Yes.
Is it the little grocery store?
Yes, grocery store. It's like a little grocery store. I used to walk by there all the time, and all these things. But is there something like that you have come to realize, or like I don't know, your conversations with people that like people are like, oh, like it's lacking for some reason? Because I know it's like very varied, like very diverse. Like I mean, I don't know for a better word, like
area of food, because we have like, Southeast Asian, we have Latini, we have, all these different types of food, like African food over there as well. So like, if there's something that you cannot come encounter, it's like, oh, we could have one of these, or people have come to you, like, why isn't there something like this around here?
We get like a lot of great feedback from the students that have come through the market that we did with UMass Lowell and with Middlesex Community College, and we get a lot of great feedback when we're doing non-student oriented markets too. One thing that I heard folks talking about, and this was early on in sort of learning about the neighborhood, was people wanted like a place to hang out. Like we call them like third locations, a place that isn't work and not home. Right?
Okay.
You need a third place. And there's a few of them in Lowell, but there wasn't any good place to hang out in the Acre outdoors in particular. It was like,
I kind of think of.
Yeah, I mean, you got North Common Park, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like there are places, but people really wanted one oriented around food and drink. And I think when Nibbana came in,
Yes.
or was it 2021?
I remember they had a name before too. They started they kind of continued. What was the name of it? I kind of forgot the name of it before, but yeah.
Yeah, there was a little spot before
Like
that.
2018. It was like around 2018. Yeah, that's when they kind of, and then they morphed into Nibbana.
Yeah, and they curated a really cool little atmosphere there where people, a lot of people met there to hang out. They were using it as that sort of third space. And from our perspective, from Mass Development's perspective, and the whole local partnership, they were like, that's like a hopping little square. And there's a big surface level parking lot in front of it. So like, how do we lean into these two businesses, Nibbana, the coffee shop, and Tasty Dumpling, which like pulls people from all over. So good.
This is my favorite.
So good.
Hand on your heart.
Yeah.
That is like my place.
Yeah.
That place is in my heart. Actually, both places, because I actually sometimes like I have to go meet with people, and I was like, Nibbana,
Yeah, right.
Actually, I met with you at Nibbana too.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
I think that's where we met.
I
Our
think
first
so
time
too.
hanging out.
Probably, right.
Yeah, we're like, let's meet at Nibbana and then walk the Acre.
Right.
Which was the first time I've ever done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. And
Yeah.
you grew up here.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Drake, but the last 6 years I've lived in Lowell. But that's the thing about the Acre is I think it's both the lack of outdoor sort of hangout space. Pinella now has their patio, and so that definitely adds to the area. But there wasn't something that was necessarily like inviting me to come and spend my afternoon walking around. But then it also is something I've learned since working on this project is like a lack of awareness about the restaurants in the area, which has been, a big part of why this project excites me is a lot of these restaurants and food businesses are immigrant owned, women owned.
Yep.
They have really small staffs. They maybe don't have, the owner is also the head chef and their daughter is the only server, in the restaurant or something. And they don't have the capacity to like really market their own, their menus or their specials or, their hours. And so I think something that we're really trying to do is just like get the word out that there is incredible food in the Acre. And I think that's where my sort of ignorance was. It wasn't that the Acre's lacking anything. I just didn't know what was there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's made this project really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of this has been not us bringing something that the Acre doesn't have, right? I feel like it's this philosophy in economic development. I know my boss says this a lot, and he goes, it's a difference between like farming and fishing.
Yeah.
Like fish is like when you take something out and you bring it somewhere else. But if you're taking a farming approach to growing a community, I mean, you're working with what's already there, and the Acre is such a great example because there's so much already here that if we don't need to bring something in necessarily. We just need to focus on strengthening what's already here and growing that. And like with the patio project. So this was a collaborative sort of project we did with the building owners. So who owns the building that Nibbana and Tasty Dumpling are in, and then both of those businesses. We were able to work with some mass development resources, with some city resources, and with some building owners, we all kind of put money in the pot and said, let's build this like beautiful outdoor dining area. Yeah. This is a place people already like going. This is a place people are already spending time. They're spending time on a surface level parking lot. So let's lean into this and make it, instead of a parking lot, like let's make it a place where people want to spend even more time and bring other people to. And like creating that destination, I mean, it benefits those businesses, it benefits the whole neighborhood, and it benefits all of us, right?
Exactly,
like we all get to enjoy it even more now.
Exactly.
So.
Actually, I think it's done, right?
It's just about done. They're putting in 4 shade structures.
Oh, they're putting shades. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because I drove this morning by it, and I was like, oh yeah, because I finally saw it like open, you know.
Yeah. I know. They've been working on it for months, and it's finally coming together. I think just in time for Folk Fest.
Yes.
Oh,
I was like, open.
Yeah. So
It looks so good.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So I didn't know you were part of that project.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was It's projects like that we really try to focus on, which is like growing working with the entrepreneurs that are already here. And one thing that you said, Mariah, which is it's so true, is like also like who the business owners are. Mm-hmm. Like we created an equipment fund, was one of the early projects we did, where we co-invested in any equipment upgrade that a local business was making. They needed a new freezer, we'll help out, we'll subsidize it. We paid for 70% of the equipment upgrades. So if you're buying a $10,000 cooler upgrade, I mean that's a pretty nice incentive. And we wanted to incentivize these business owners that are putting everything into they really do put everything they have into their businesses. And we worked with 14 businesses. We found that of the 14 businesses that we helped out, 64% were women-owned, 43% were Asian American-owned, 57% were immigrant-owned, which is an insane metric. A majority of the businesses in the neighborhood are owned by immigrants, which and it highlights the immigrant community is like an economic powerhouse. Mm-hmm. Like they're entrepreneurs, they're putting everything into these businesses, and they're putting it into neighborhoods that we have been, I feel like, as kind of like in terms of state priorities, like state agencies have always tried to make investments in these struggling areas. And like here we have a group
Can't
of
tell
people.
you for a fact.
And we have a group of like entrepreneurs and business owners and residents here that are doing it. So it's like, we don't need to figure it out. We just need to figure out how to help them do it. They're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been the difference that I've seen from, maybe there's always been these programs at the state level trying to help communities like the Acre. But what's different about Taste the Acre, this project, and you as a TDI fellow is that you're actually on the ground every day walking through the Acre, showing your face. And it makes it so much easier for the businesses to trust you, to make connections, to be able to just explain the programs in person. Like, who has time to like go online and search for what's out there? Like, it's so complicated and overwhelming. And so to have you there, like walking a stressed out business owner through each step of the process, like the result is that there's a brand new patio, for all of us to enjoy. Like, it's just, I think that was something that really took me by surprise, was like when we first met up and we're walking down the street and people were literally sticking their heads out their doors being like, Nate, how's it going? Like, you want any food? Like, people like just love to see your face. And I think it's just really telling the success that we've seen in the neighborhood because someone's on the ground making those connections.
Right. That is awesome. Yeah. And I actually wanted to like jump in there because like, it's kind of crazy because in all this time, I'm looking at my questions that I have here, and I'm like, well, there you go. Well, there you go. Well, there you go. Like 5 already. But one of the things that I keep hearing is like you're doing all these things. You're the way you walk in the Acre and everything. From my perspective, and one of the reasons I also wanted to talk with you is because like I mostly know y'all from tabling and doing literally sampling, and a lot of us kind of have that perspective here at in our staff committee. Like, I remember we're like, and one of the things that we're like, can you ask him like what is a day in the life of this year? Like, you know what I mean? We want to know exactly. You're like, we know the tabling and the taste test. You know what I mean? But what is it? You know?
Right.
What can you describe that?
Totally. I know that's.
And like you're saying this, it's like I kind of need to know this because like I just kind of wanted to know that.
Yeah, totally. I know. I feel really lucky to have this job where I get to like be in a neighborhood that's so cool, and I love it. And a lot of people learn about TDI or learn about Taste the Acre because we do these like public markets or where we show up at something. But there's a whole day job behind that.
Exactly.
And I would say like I'm one of 13 fellows in the state. And,
okay.
And if you asked us all, I would think all of us have like a different answer based on what our days look like. But I mean, for me, I spend 4 days a week in the district. My office, I mean, I technically have an office, but I spend most of my time working from the restaurants and the coffee shops in the district. It's my belief that like, I mean, and I think it's common practice that the way you benefit a community is by being like, first and foremost, if you ever hope to benefit a community, you have to be part of that community in some meaningful way. And that means like spending time and showing up at least. Yeah. And so I try to do a lot of that. But yeah, I think a lot of people are like, you're just around all the time.
Eating food.
Eating food in restaurants. And like, I guess guilty as charged, I am. But, I've got a whole mobile, I'd say probably an unsurprising amount of my job is just like responding to emails and boring stuff like that. And putting together projects. So much of being a TDI fellow is about finding projects. Because it's like not necessarily me that's going to invent the project. I need to find people who in the community that have a good idea for the neighborhood. And they need maybe a little bit of help thinking it through, or maybe they just need funding, or maybe they need to connect with somebody else across town who's also got a similar idea. So a lot of my work is like meeting with people, sourcing ideas, helping develop those ideas to get them ready for investment or funding or like, in case of business owners, like opening up that door. So it's a lot of like finding connections in the community, connecting to a business owner, to a developer. A lot of developers look for are building first floor spaces. They need businesses for those first floor spaces, but they don't necessarily know the communities that they're building in. So it's like, can we make some easy connections there? We got a lot of businesses that are looking for first floor spaces to either own or rent. Like, so there's so many opportunities to be relevant and useful in the neighborhood. But a lot of it all depends on like kind of you being there and you knowing everything that's going on.
I feel you. And actually you kind of said something that kind of brought another question that I had, because I know you were mentioning earlier, this is like a 3-year plan, right? Or like a 3-year, what's the word that you use? Project?
Yep.
Like a 3-year project?
Yeah, 3-year period, yep.
All right. And the three of us know, and probably anyone listening to this knows that Lowell, and I call Lowell like the culinary capital of New England. That's just like a title that I gave Lowell. So, but yeah, like I know you're like focused on the Acre, and then you just kind of mentioned some, like some people that may have like a connection with someone maybe across town or something like that. And do you envision like moving or like doing some future project that it's like not necessarily like focus on this stretch of the Acre, and how would that like continue to go forward past the end of the period?
Yeah, totally. No, that's a great question. I would say like our theory of change, like the way we think and we know we can be impactful in a community, is by hyper focusing on one neighborhood.
Okay.
I think the idea is that if you really concentrate resources on a small walkable area, you can see that make a difference, and that difference ripples out. But those are like, I mean, I think there's also recognition is like everything's connected in a small city.
I mean, like it's not far. Like really, like to go to South Back Central is
totally
like stone's throws away from the Acre.
Borders are fake.
Exactly.
Like so there's an arbitrariness to that, and so there's like a project that benefits the neighborhood, and it's not in the district, quote unquote, or a little further downtown. That's fine. It's not like a hard line. I think it's the operating philosophy for us as TDI fellows is like, does it benefit the neighborhood really? And the further away from the neighborhood it gets, like the more and more you have to make a case for it, but that doesn't mean a case can't be made. And so much of our work, at least with TDI fellows across the state, like there's 13 of us. So like, I mean, Lowell is unique and it's not unique. Like a lot of the troubles it has and successes, like you can translate that to other places. So like, we're always talking across the state and like connecting different entrepreneurs together or developers together, or just like, oh, interesting problem here, we kind of solved that over here. And like there's all these cool like just peer-to-peer lessons that we can learn from one another. I forgot what your question was.
I think you answered it.
But
I think you
answered it.
Yeah, I think you answered it. So yeah, so I have a couple more questions. And you know, they're pretty simple. In the sense, like, I would say it's more kind of like, what have y'all learned? Like, what you have learned, like, in talking with all these businesses and restaurants, you know, here in throughout this project, especially on you know, on everything that you've been doing. And you know, I think it kind of like merges into the next question too. I think you can maybe call it a two-part question. It's like, how would you also describe everything that it became becoming a success, you know? And how would you describe the success of everything?
That's a good question. How would you describe it? I feel like you have this unique perspective of like working in the restaurant industry and working on behalf of restaurant owners.
Yeah. I mean, and I also, you know, I'm on a very, you're doing more than just Taste the Acre, right? Like the work, some of the work that you're talking about is outside of sampling food at events, right? Which is really what I focus on. Like my role is sort of operationally supporting the markets that we're doing to uplift the restaurants that are existing here. When I think of like what success looks like for the Taste the Acre project is really just like getting new customers into some of these restaurants. Like, you know, when we think about, one thing that we've done that's been really fun is, you know, I remember the first market, it was pretty overwhelming trying to figure out how many samples we needed, like how to package those samples, you know, how to place orders with some of these restaurants that don't necessarily have like catering menus. So I think it would be really cool to see some of these restaurants, you know, start a small catering program, or, you know, some of the local businesses be able to like order lunches for their office, you know, with all of the new funding that's coming into Lowell. Like how can we create new revenue streams for some of these restaurants so that they can tap into some of those larger audiences? And then just like the general community knowing that these restaurants are here and becoming regular patrons. Like I think it's really that simple. I think that's I want to see, like, I want the restaurants to like feel the impact of new people coming in and loving their food.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I think healthy neighborhoods change. Like neighborhoods are always changing as new people come and go, and the Acre is no exception to that, right?
Lowell, like always a constant influx of people.
Right, and like I think we're seeing that in the Acre. There's new buildings going up. UMass Lowell announced this huge transformative $900 million redevelopment of East Campus. Those are going to be new businesses. Those are going to be new people, new residents. I think for success for the TDI program, it's like, can we, 10 years from now, do we find that the business community, and I would argue in a lot of ways is sort of the heart and soul of the Acre, has that changed with a changing neighborhood? And, you know, are there spaces being built that accommodate those immigrant business owners? Are there customers coming in that learn to love these places? Are there residents that are able to continue to stay in the neighborhood and continue to enjoy it? It's like, I think it's can we kind of enable folks to have the tools to continue to change with a changing neighborhood? And my hope is yes. I think what's so remarkable about the small business community, particularly in the Acre, is like their ability to thrive in sometimes less than ideal circumstances. Yeah, like they're making it work and putting out incredible food along the way. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that they're going to continue to be the heart and soul of this neighborhood.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that kind of, I think I cannot add anything else after what you said right there. I think we can actually just like do. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. Yeah. Thank you. And
yeah. Thanks.
Good
Enrique.
luck on the rest of the project.
Thanks for having us, Enrique.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking around for the Roots in Lowell Mill City Grows podcast. And if you have any questions or anything about Mill City Grows, you can send us an email at info@millcitygrows.org. That is info@millcitygrows.org. See you later.